Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about Sepultura, and I got their first four albums here, and I just gotta say, man, Sepultura was such a huge influence on me. As trying to get into heavier thrash, especially like bands like Creator and Sodom, and Toxic Holocaust and bands like that. Sepultura was definitely one of those bands that were just so monstrous, so heavy, and so badass. They knew how to combine great elements of other metal genres with their own genre, with their own uniqueness of metal. So yeah, today we're going to talk about their first four albums from the mid '80s to early '90s. So let's check them out. This first album is Morbid Visions. This was released in '86. This wasn't the first Sepultura album I ever heard. The first one I heard was Arise, but I bought this, um, and I put it in first time on my CD player, and I was like, wow, 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 wow. I've never heard thrash this raw before, and how angry it was. It was so dark and so evil sounding. It was awesome. They knew how to combine the good elements of black metal and death metal. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of those styles of metal. I like the blackened kind of thrash metal. I like the death thrash stuff like these guys did and some other metal bands did. But in terms of straight up death metal and black metal, I'm not really into it. There's some bands I really do appreciate the spirit of it, but overall, I'm a thrash guy. I really like thrash, old school speed metal. This kind of metal is is as heavy as I'll get. But anyway, besides the point, Sepultura's Morbid Visions was definitely, it showed me that you can write great songs and great metal riffs without having an insanely bloated, huge production. Because this album doesn't have the best of productions, much like Misfits Earth AD. It's an outstanding album, much like this, but it doesn't have the best productions. But anyway, this is a classic masterpiece of a thrash album. It combines, like I said, black and death metal a little bit here and there. But yeah, this is an outstanding album. If you can find this, definitely pick it up. All right, and this is Sepultura's second record, Schizophrenia. This album was like the precursor to their a little bit later ones, because you can definitely hear it on this. It still has a little bit of the death metal sound, but it's definitely picking up with faster thrash tempos, much like Morbid Visions had fast tempos. It's definitely starting to do that a lot more on here, and it's definitely they're definitely finding their sound on this record. Yeah, this is an outstanding album. I think I like Morbid Visions just a little more because of how raw it is, but this album totally kicks ass. It's faster, it's more aggressive, the vocals are a lot more cleaned up, the production's a little bit better. It's not as great as some of their later albums would get, but yeah, this album is a masterpiece from beginning to end. Definitely find these first two Sepultura albums, because if you're a new Sepultura fan, I'd recommend finding Beneath the Remains or Arise, but if you're really trying to really dig into their sound, I definitely recommend going back and checking out these first few albums. So yeah, and this album kicks ass, that's all I can say. So definitely check it out. Alright, this is possibly my favorite. This next to Morbid Visions, I'm going to have to go with Beneath the Remains. This album is possibly my favorite, one of my favorite thrash metal albums of all time. Top 5 for sure. Next to Morbid Visions. This or Morbid Visions is one of the best. But anyway, this is Sepultura's Beneath the Remains. This album, I got this for Christmas a couple years ago. This album totally kicks ass. It's even better than Schizophrenia, I think, in my opinion. It's tighter. The production's even better. They're really truly finding their sound on this album. It's totally heavy. It's super fast. It's pure old school 80s thrash. And yeah, this was definitely, Sepultura was one of the bands, top 5 thrash bands for me, that really made me want to get into thrash metal and really make me want to play metal music, because just that speed and that energy and that aggressiveness in the vocals is just so badass and just so monstrous and so evil sounding. It's just, oh, it's music to my ears. I love it. But definitely check this out. Beneath the Remains. Great album. Now, my final album I have here today, because I don't have all their albums. I'd like to maybe get some more of their stuff. But this is Arise. This was the first one I ever heard. It's even more cleaned up. It's more tight. It's definitely a masterpiece of thrash. This is possibly the one of the best metal records of all time because it showed that, metal could get better and more, heavy and more, speedy and just more badass as time goes on. So yeah, this was the album from Sepultura that definitely got me into them for sure. This and this and Machine Messiah were the albums that got me into them. But this is a great album. Yeah, it's an outstanding masterpiece. So definitely check these albums out. If you're a new Sepultura fan, I definitely recommend finding this one first because it's their most well-known albums that I think everyone considers this and Beneath the Remains to be their best. So yeah, definitely check these albums out because they truly kick ass. All right, everybody. So that's my little talk about Sepultura. I definitely would like to talk about these guys more because I'm a huge fan. I definitely would like to talk about Derek's era. Machine Messiah and Nation and all those albums. I'd like to talk about Chaos AD for sure from Max Cavalera's era. That's the album right after Arise. I'm not gonna dig into Roots because I'm not a big fan of that album. It's just not my kind of metal, that kind of whatever sound they were going for on that. It's a good album, but it's, just not my thing. But yeah, that's my little talk about Sepultura. I'm going to talk about some more bands in the future. So stay tuned, everybody. Thanks for watching.